All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode, Jared Elliss, edge rusher out of Utah. We're going to be looking at him based on his production data profile and other statistical factors. Jonah's father was Luther Elliss, who played defensive tackle in the NFL for 10 seasons. I bet you didn't know that, and if you did, high five. High five. Or pound it. Come on. Touch the screen. Touch the screen. You know you want to do it. Pound it. There we go. All right. Now, moving on to defensive market share scores. If you're new to the channel, new to the stuff that I do, defensive market share is where you take a raw statistic, you divide it by the team total statistic to give you a percentile score. That score is then compared to every single prospect that's come out since the 1989 NFL draft class to kind of give you an idea of how they performed in all these different defensive metrics, if you will. And there is important information with them because in terms of edge rushers, most of the all-pro players, the average all-pro production scores were in the 90-plus percentile in terms of solo tackles, sacks, and tackle for loss in terms of market share data. Pro Bowl averages were in the 80-plus percentile. Starter averages were in the 70 percentile. And Jonah Elliss was in a decent area. His solo tackle was in the Pro Bowl range. Sack and TFL was in the all-pro range in terms of his data. So great all-around production for Jonah Elliss. I mean, out of all the edge rushers in this particular draft class, he probably has some of the most impressive production. Moving on to his other market share scores, his forced fumble score was in the 47 percentile, which is not great, but not a terrible number to have. And he had a 76 percentile in terms of pass deflection data. So he not only is able to get sacks and tackle for loss and also good solo tackle numbers, he also is able to break up passes, which is a very good thing to have as an edge rusher. Now, moving to adjusted production scores, because I know a lot of you guys are going to say, he was very productive, Jim, but he played at Utah. Or you just kind of wonder, well, the data is great, but what about the place that they played at? And this is where adjusted production comes in, because you're looking at other things like the age of a player, the strength of schedule, and strength of team. So we're looking at, okay, how productive were they for their age? How productive were they for their level of competition? And, of course, how productive were they for the team that they were on? The MSA rating, of course, takes into account market share, solo tackle, strength of schedule, and age. Then the pass score takes a look at market share scores, efficiency scores, age scores, SRS, and SOS. So the pass score is more like a gumbo metric. The MSA rating just looks at their solo tackle, sacks, tackle for loss, with the age, strength of schedule, strength of team stuff. And when you look at Jonah Ellis's overall adjusted production score, he did fantastic. 98 percentile in terms of his age, 98 percentile in terms of his MSA rating, and 72 percentile in terms of his pass rating. The biggest thing that dings him there is his lack of elite forced fumble and pass deflection data in that particular metric. But these are still good numbers to hit. And this is out of 1,799 edge rushers since the 1989 NFL draft class. Moving on to some pro comparisons for Jonah Elliss. Jonah Elliss tested very similar to Von Miller, Shaq Barrett, Carson Wells, Greg Hardy, Alden Smith, Aiden Hutchinson, Julius Peppers, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Max Crosby. That is definitely a nice list to be on, guys. And of course, when you look at it even closer, you can see that, okay, there are a lot of elite names on here that either went in the first round or they were highly undervalued and ended up making a team and becoming valuable. So, biggest thing to point out here, guys, Jonah Elliss is a prospect that probably won't go in the first round, probably won't even go in the second round, may even go in the third or fourth round, or even fall even further than that, which is crazy to think, but crazier things have happened, bottom line, in terms of his metric comparables, I'm not saying that he's going to be Von Miller, but he does have similar production traits to Von Miller. He has similar production traits to guys like Shaq Barrett or Carson Wells. So wherever you look, there's actually some pretty darn good pass rushers here to kind of look at in terms of him. So all you really need to know is he produced incredibly. His age puts him right in line with the greatest edge rushers, at least some of the best edge rushers that we've had in recent memory. And those are things that you need to take into account in terms of evaluating him as a prospect and not really look at the school that he played at or how he looks. Because overall, I think he looks like a future Bronco. Definitely in terms of him. But I would say Jonah Ellis's outlook. Jonah Ellis profiles as a backup to All-Pro edge rusher based on his overall production profile. The biggest concern in his profile is his pass score because he isn't very active outside of solo tackle, sacks, and tackle for loss. Ellis is not getting the same hype that the elite names and the comparisons got to, which again, I do have to acknowledge that hey, I might love this guy data-wise, like he's 91st percentile, but nobody likes this guy on film, or at the very least, when they watch him on film, they go, eh. And I have to acknowledge those things that, the film guys and the data guys need to sync up. I think when we sync up, good things happen. When we don't sync up, bad things happen. So I hope that Jonah Ellis, at least there's some film guys that like him, but I would say he really is built like a poor man's version of Von Miller. I think his physique, how tall he is, his size, he's not exactly like a, 270 pound, 6'7" edge rusher type. He's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker, pass rusher specialist. But I think Ellis, if he tests well at the combine and everything else like that, and he goes late day, in the first round, he could be the best edge rusher from this draft class that the NFL just went on because he played at Utah and he doesn't fit the stereotypical things that they look at the position, which is where data comes in. So you can find guys that are undervalued and take advantage and make money. So, with all that said, of course, my name is Jim Coburn. You can check out my other work at Gymmetrics on Twitter at JIMETRICS. Also check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/JCoburn. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!